Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of United Talks Podcast. And today we're going to be doing the match preview for the game between Manchester United and Everton. Rather, Manchester United and Fiorentina. I keep saying Everton because Everton was the last game. Whatever. Now, Manchester United versus Fiorentina, and that is to bring about the return of a club legend, in quotes, club legend for Manchester United, basically serve a good person who's served the club for years, and it is the return of David De Gea, right? Basically, return of David De Gea to Man United, to Old Trafford. Old Trafford welcomes David De Gea, but it's also interesting because we intend to see a couple of changes to the team and some new announcements. But we're all basking in the joy of having a revamped quarantine. You can see the videos and the pictures online, and we're going to be glossing over it in days to come. But we are so excited and we're happy that something is happening at Manchester United. But it is what it is. Now, United will bring the preseason to a close on Saturday afternoon when, or depending on where you're watching it, it's going to be morning in some places, afternoon or evening in some other places. So when they take on Fiorentina in the Snapdragon Cup Final at Old Trafford, fresh from lifting the 2025 Premier League Summer Series in the United States. Now, Rúben Amorim's side have a chance to make it 2 trophies in the space of a week, 2 preseason trophies. We're not going to be giddy over that, but it is what it is. Now, more than just silverware, this match represents the final tests before the curtain rises on the 25-26 Premier League season when Man United host Arsenal on the 17th of August for the manager. Now, it's about fine-tuning the tactical system. Finalizing his first choice 11 and ensuring that momentum is carried into, competitive action, right? So basically, this is a time where we start to see players who will play potentially 90 minutes, others who will play, who will play 70 minutes, others who will play 65 minutes, whatever the case. Others who are going to be subbed off. We get the chance to see what the strongest 11 would be, or what the potential 11 would be against Arsenal and all whatnot. Now, in truth, when we think about this game and think about what happens with Fiorentina, we can get a sense of what Amorim is thinking about, especially when it comes to like games like this. We can get a sense of what Amorim is thinking about. We can get a sense of what we expect of him, And this is the weekend where the Community Shield is played, and I think it's on Sunday. Then this is the same weekend, I think, where there is the UEFA Super Cup final. UEFA Super Cup is not a final, but it's the winners of the Europa League, which is Tottenham Hotspurs versus winners of Champions League, which is PSG. And PSG are kind of like a wounded lion in this one because they just lost the Club World Cup final. So they want to, start the season for them on a high. Now, United's preseason began in low-key fashion with a goalless draw against Leeds in Sweden. But the trip to America sparked significant improvement, wins over Everton and wins over West Ham and Bournemouth, followed by a hard-fought 2-2 draw with Everton secured the summer series crown. And the performances have also been marked by sharper pressing, better attacking rotations, and a stronger sense of togetherness in the squad, which you could see how the squad is together with camaraderie and all of that. Something that was missing during the last season's disastrous campaign. Now, with 2 wins and 2 draws from last 4 matches, which means we're unbeaten, the team is unbeaten heading into the final warm-up, right? So, Fiorentina have also enjoyed a solid preseason with victories over, Grosseto and Carrarese, a narrow defeat to Leicester City, and a goalless draw against Nottingham Forest. They finished 6th in La Liga in Italian Serie A last season and will provide a disciplined, tactically savvy challenge. So let's look out for what to expect from Fiorentina. Now, with regards to tactical analysis, how Fiorentina plays under Stefano Pioli. Pioli has crafted a Fiorentina side that combines Italian defensive discipline with measured possession as position-based football, tactically deploying a 4-2-3-1 on occasion, and in their last match they played a 3-5-2 depending, and they build up, patiently from the back, using the double pivot depending on how Pioli wants to or tends to want to line up, using the double pivot. So if we look at the game that they played against Nottingham Forest, they lined up in a 3-5-2. We're looking at the last game. And then if we're looking at the game before that, you could tell that, Fiorentina play in multiple defensive styles, against teams, depending on the team that they're facing and all of that. So, yeah, that's pretty much what it is. If we're going to go like based on historical fixtures, in their last game against Carrarese, that's the name of the place. Yeah, they lined up in a 4-2-3-1, and then the game against Leicester City, they lined up in a 3-5-2. They said so, depending on the game, right, and all of that. So now we're going to talk about basically furthermore how they play. In the final third, they look, for relations between the wingers and attacking midfielder in Nico Gonzalez, previously a key outlet before his summer departure. Right now, the addition of Edin Dzeko gives them basically classic target man who can actually hold up and bring others into play. But in the last game, they played with, I think they played with Moise Kean, and let's check that last game. So in that last game, in the game against Leicester City, they played with Beltran and Sabiriri, basically, right? They played with Beltran and Sabiriri, and then they subbed them off. Then Moise Kean came in the 64th minute. Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. Also, defensively, they remain very compact in the mid block, but when they sense weakness, they press aggressively, especially on the flanks. And their main vulnerability comes against fast direct transitions, which is where Man United's strength comes in, which is something that United can actually look to exploit. They also build up patiently from the back using a double pivot to recycle possession and open passing lanes. Now, speaking of Fiorentina, we're going to go with their predicted lineup for the game. This is kind of like, you can never predict preseason, but this is their predicted lineup. It could go either ways. It could go any way. In the game against Leicester, they started at 3-5-2, and this time around, we're going to predict that they're going to start with a 3-5-2 again, with David De Gea in net, because it's his return to Old Trafford, and it's kind of like a send-off for David. Basically, we didn't give him a proper send-off, and most fans are really, really, really kind of unhappy with the way things happened and all of that. But so David De Gea in net, and we have Mari in defense, center back. That's Pablo Mari, the Pablo Mari that you all know. And then we have Pietro Comuso in right wing back, right center back. And then left center back, we have Ranieri. That's Luca Ranieri. And then in the midfield, they play a double pivot, depending on how you see it, or a double six of, Mandragora. Mandragora plays in the mid with Richardson and Fagioli. Now, it could be anybody. It could be Frazzini. It could be Blanco. It could be Fortini, depending on who they are using, as the case may be. Then we also have in wing back, they have Gosens on the left and Dodo on the right. They have Edin Dzeko as a striker too, legendary striker, played against Man United a couple times and all of that. So yeah, so they have Dodo on the right wing back, and then they have Gosens on the left wing back position. Then in attack, they'll go with Moise Kean and Beltran. Then they could bring in even Sabiri, or they could bring in Edin Dzeko, or depending on who they have, they could So that's pretty much their starting lineup. And their key player for this game, if he starts, is going to be Moise Kean. Moise Kean was a target for Manchester United earlier in the transfer window. I think first couple of weeks in June and stuff. So Moise Kean is their key player. If we're going to look at his stats, he played really well last season for them. I talked about Moise Kean on this channel a couple times with his number of goals last season. In the game against Carereso, he got 2 goals. The 2 goals that got them the win on the 25th of July. He's a pretty decent player, pretty average and all of that. Help them. He plays both on the left and on the right. Both on the left wing and as a striker, but he's a striker. And he's the guy that has moved around a lot between PSG, Everton, and Juventus. And then finally settled in a 13 million euro transfer from Juventus to Fiorentina. So basically, he is a decent player. As I said, I've talked about him earlier. He's 25 years of age, Italian international. He scores decent goals if you look at his stats and all of that. Last season, he played 44 games. He scored 25 goals. He had 3 assists. Decent numbers. All through for Fiorentina 24-25 season. The season before that, he didn't really score much. He played 20 for Juventus. 0 goals, 0 assists. But in the Serie A alone, he played 32 games, 19 goals, 3 assists. And then in the Conference League, 9 games, 3 goals, 0 assists. And in Coppa Italia, 1 game, 1 goal, 0 assists. And then in the Europa Conference League qualifier, he played 2 games, scored 2 goals, and all of that. So decent player for Juventus or Fiorentina. Now we're going to go to Rúben Amorim, Manchester United. How Manchester United play, and what to expect from the game. We're going to talk about basically Manchester United's tactical approach under Rúben Amorim. Amorim has continued to refine his 3-4-3 system, which relies specifically on wing backs, pushing high midfielders, rotating into wide spaces, and quick vertical passing. And I've heard something very new that we're going to probably get the chance when we get the chance to talk about, and that is the artificial counter-attack. Never heard of it before, but now I'm going to make a little bit of research into it because I saw a content creator on TikTok talk about it, and I'm going to do a deeper research to find out how this artificial counter-attack works under Amorim. Never heard of it before. Now I'm hearing about it. So it relies on wing backs and quick passes to break lines. The press has been more cohesive this summer, with the front 3 leading the trigger and midfielders squeezing the space behind. Now we want the defenders to actually squeeze further as well, not more like a high press, but just kind of squeeze further behind, so that we can stop those passing that beats the press, the first press and the second press, right? So, and if you notice, I've said this on this channel a couple times. You listen closely, Rúben Amorim screams at Matthijs de Ligt a couple times. Charlie against Everton, he did that. Against West Ham, he did the same as well, that he should press in that middle when the press has been beaten from the back. So that is that. Now with Bruno Fernandes, who actually dictates play in advanced areas, new signing Matheus Cunha, offering a direct threat up front. United are starting to look more fluid in possession. The arrival of Mbeumo has added another dynamic, dribbler to stretch up the pitch, right? To stretch the pitch wide, especially on the right side where Mbeumo and Ahmad can potentially play. But against Fiorentina, we should expect Amorim to test his first choice 11, prioritizing speed in transitions, overloads in wide areas or wide zones, and then quick switches of play to disrupt their shape. I've talked about how Amorim plays in details in another video. I've talked about that, on this channel. You see it if you check how Amorim plays. United Talks Pod, you see that I broke down every line, every detail, we did research from history and how he dealt with players in Sporting and all of that. So we've done a lot of research on Rúben Amorim. But yeah, now if we're going to talk about predicted starting lineup for Manchester United, we will go with obviously Atabanda in net, right? Atabanda in net, and then we'll have Matthijs de Ligt, Lenny Yoro on the right side, Matthijs de Ligt center, Lenny Yoro on the right side, and Luke Shaw on the left. And then we have Bruno Fernandes dictating play in mid, Manuel Ugarte being the destroyer that he always is. Although he had an off game against Everton, but this potentially be the strongest starting lineup, barring any changes whatsoever. And I expect that I know he will start Luke Shaw at left center back. Even though there's the option of Aiden Heaven, there's the option of starting de Ligt on the right, Euro on the left, and then Maguire in the middle. But this is what I think Rúben Amorim will start with. And then we have Patrick Dogo on the wing back, and then we have Ahmad on the right wing back doing Ahmad things as well, pressing up top. And then Matheus Cunha and Mbeumo are 2 10s, left and right 10s. And then we would also have Rasmus Højlund starting this one as well. If Rúben Amorim decides that Rasmus Højlund does not start this game, then he will potentially put Cunha and Mbeumo up top, and then maybe Mason Mount, the chief presser, behind them. And it still works as a midfield and a forward 3, right? So midfield 4 and a forward 3, depending on how the lineup. So yeah, that's the lineup I will go with Rasmus starting, basically seeing as his competition has joined the team. Now, if we're going to go with team news and team selection with regards to what Manchester United is going to line up with and how we expect the team to feature on that day. Back from injury, that's the news we've heard. Andre Onana is back from injury. Joshua Zirkzee and Nozema Mazraoui could all feature as well after missing out on the US tour, but they were there with the team. Then we have Lisandro Martinez. There's also just returned to light training. We've seen pictures, we've seen videos. I'm yet to put those things out on social, but we've seen him with light training. But he will not even the expected date of return, which is very interesting because he had an ACL injury and an ACL surgery, is October, right? Mid-October. So let's look forward to that. Hopefully he's back and then he doesn't have to stay the full 1 year or 12 months that people that at least stay after an ACL injury. So he will not be risked at all. Mbeumo is expected to start again after his debut against Everton. Matheus Cunha should also lead the line with Rasmus Højlund with Rasmus Højlund's future, in question with regards to the reports we heard from Fabrizio Romano and Ben Jacobs. But I believe Rasmus Højlund will start. Then Benjamin Sesko is set to be unveiled. He's set for his medical today, and then soon he will be unveiled tomorrow, as stated, depending on when you're watching this on Saturday. On the game day, he'll be unveiled at Old Trafford as always. And then Luke Shaw retains his spot at the back 3, as I said earlier in the predicted lineup, which I'm going to show you now. He retains his spot at the back 3, while Mason Mount and Harry Maguire could push for starts, basically, as I stated earlier. But for Fiorentina, the headline is the return of David De Gea. So David De Gea comes back to Old Trafford. His first appearance since leaving Man United in 2023. Now with new signings like Simon Som, Nicolo Fagioli. Fagioli also will feature in the lineup as I predicted. And then Albert Gudmundsson. They're all expected to play part in that game as well, as I gave you earlier. Now, key players to watch for Manchester United includes Bruno Fernandes. His influence in preseason has been clear. Basically, he has his movement between the lines, range of passing, leadership in the press, makes him a central figure to Amorim's plans. Against Fiorentina's compact shape, his ability to unlock defenses will be very vital. Another person who has the responsibility to unlock defenses in this team is Matheus Cunha. Now, Matheus Cunha, basically, he's signed to add directness and unpredictability. Cunha's dribbling, off the ball runs and work rate could, trouble Fiorentina's centre backs. His partnership with Bruno and Mbeumo will be worth watching, because one of the reasons why I want to watch this game is to see that partnership grow ahead of the Arsenal opener. So we need that gelling. My prediction is that Benjamin Sesko, depending on his fitness and depending on what Amorim's requirements are, Benjamin Sesko will not start that game against Arsenal. So let's not get our hopes up. Benjamin Sesko is not starting that game. So yeah, so we might potentially have the potential starting lineup for Arsenal against Fiorentina. So it is what it is. Now, key strategies for Man United to win, ways in which Man United can win, to target Fiorentina's high fullbacks and quick switches to the opposite flanks. And also, another way to win is to keep a high tempo in possession to prevent, their defensive block from settling. And then also pressing numbers when losing the ball, force mistakes in build up, and force their hand, like bring about forced errors, unforced errors, and forced errors, depending on how you see it. And then what to expect from Fiorentina is that they're going to try to slow the game to frustrate United's rhythm. They're also going to use Edin Dzeko's area presence to bypass the press and to bring the midfield runners into play. And they're also going to look for quick counters into wide areas, exploiting spaces left by United's wing backs, especially when they bump forward. Now, to conclude all of this and to bring this whole match preview to a close, this is the last match preview before the season starts. We're potentially going to do, obviously, I still owe you guys player profile for Benjamin Sesko and the preseason preview, which we're going to do as well. I mean, the season preview ahead of, what to expect for Manchester United in this new season. And then we can now get the season kicked off. And I'm going to do that either this weekend or the beginning of next week. But it is what it is. We're going to do a season preview, depending on what news we hear with regards to signings, because things are going crazy now, right? So to conclude this, with the confidence high and Amorim closing in on his first competitive match in charge, United will be eager to maintain this unbeaten preseason run and lift another trophy in front of their home fans. Obviously, it's not a trophy that's very, very important. It's not a major trophy, it's just a preseason trophy. And Fiorentina also disciplined, will not be a pushover, especially with De Gea in net. It's going to show his skills, and United's sharper edge, attacking variety, and home advantage should see Man United beat Fiorentina. But because De Gea is in net, we're going to just go easy on the scoreline and say Man United are going to win 2-1. Going to be hard fought. They're going to come in aggressive. New players are going to want to show who they are. It's an Italian team, but we expect them to give us a hard one. So I would say a 2-1 for Man United to win this game. Let me know your thoughts and feelings. Let me know your score predictions. Let me know your predicted lineup in the comment section so we can actually build that community. But thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for liking, sharing, and subscribing, and hitting the notification bell. You guys have helped. Like, when I see the growth every day, I'm just really amazed. Like, you guys have been key to this, and I really appreciate. So thank you so much. Thank you for liking, sharing, and subscribing. If you haven't already, please do like, share, subscribe. Smash that like button, share, and subscribe so you don't have to miss anything as it relates to Manchester United. We look forward to, welcoming De Gea to Old Trafford. We're going to give him a proper send-off. And if Man United win, that's fine. It's the preseason friendly. We're just shaping up, and Amorim is going to take it seriously. So thank you so much, especially in front of the home fans. Yeah, thank you so much. I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Goodbye, and God bless.